Welcome everybody. This is the General SharePoint Development Special Interest Group, and this is the bi-weekly sync, where we always talk about everything else in the context of development and solution designs and awesome SharePoint designs, except SharePoint framework. So we do have two of these bi-weekly community calls every single Thursday. We technically have a call every single Thursday at 7 a.m. It's either SharePoint framework the related community call, or then it's this General SharePoint Development Special Interest Group. Now, more and more actually on this call as well, we are always including out-of-the-box capabilities. So it's not necessarily super uber dev topic, because a lot of the dev is actually also understanding what's available out of the box or what's available from Microsoft side. So you don't have to develop all of those things by yourself. Today is 19th of September. And from an agenda perspective, so let's see if I'm going to make that moving. There we go. We'll have a quick recap on the status of our open source projects on this side of the house. So PnP CSOM Core extensions is evolving fast. PnP PowerShell. There's a new version coming up on the PnP provisioning templates, which actually relates on what Katie is going to show, because a lot of the new designs, which we will be sooner or later releasing in the lookbook designs, actually have new capabilities, and we need to then address those capabilities in the templates and in the schema and in the provisioning engine. So it kind of nicely ties in the discussion as well. There's some updates on the PnP PowerShell. There's some updates on the modernization tooling as well, and then we'll go first to Katie, and then after that to Ahmadi. And in the Katie's case, we're going to concentrate on the designing of the modern portals and talk about the lookbook designs. And I know that she has plenty of cool demos waiting up. And then the second demo after Katie is around building a site creation management solution with SharePoint Framework, Azure Functions, and tenant templates. It has the SharePoint Framework inside of the title, but actually that's more around the automation and solution designs. And it's a really nice looking solution, which is an open source solution for anybody to take advantage as well, which, by the way, takes advantage of the PnP templating, which takes advantage of Katie's designs, which is kind of cool. So everything ties in nicely together. Now, Lookbook is already getting a lot of feedback on the chat window. Quick recap: if you're interested in contributing or on participating on the community side of the house, we do welcome community demos. I know that I have quite a few requests pending in multiple different channels, and I'll follow up on many of those quite soon. So we get people scheduled on the upcoming calls. You can definitely contribute in GitHub those samples. We, by the way, do prefer, especially when we promote your samples, if we promote your samples, we do prefer those getting submitted towards the official SharePoint GitHub organization, because that way the content which we promote is controlled by us. And that's really the concern. There is a concern behind of this, which is if we promote somebody else's sample, which is in a completely different location, we don't know if somebody is going to modify that sample or put something offensive behind of that URL. And that's why we're asking people to contribute to one centralized location. That's really the reason behind of that. And most importantly, provide feedback. Providing feedback, there's multiple channels of doing that. Just having a chat right now in the Teams and providing us feedback, that's one option. Go to the SP DevDocs issue lists and social media. All of those things are open for your feedback for us to understand what is needed. Now, moving on things, quick recap on the general resources, which we always have on all of the presentations. AKMS SP DevDocs documentation getting updated on day-to-day basis. AKMS SP Dev videos. From there, you can actually get all of our community call recordings, demos, guidance videos, tutorials are available in that YouTube channel. What's kind of cool, this week we crossed the 12,000 subscribers on that YouTube channel, so it's growing quite fast from a subscriber perspective as well. Not a massive 12,000 subscribers is not a massive if you compare that to let's say gaming videos or something else, but it's actually quite good from this kind of IT video usage perspective. And then AKMS SP Dev issues, the centralized issue list for getting support on your development topic. PnP CSOM Core library. So let's do a quick recap on the open source projects. I intentionally didn't have any, let's say, generic Microsoft engineering updates, so we keep the intro short.
Yes, so the PnP CSOM Core library, we just shipped a release last week, so the September one is out. Now, what's coming for the next one, October? will be released by first week of October. One thing is when we create client-side pages, so we have an API which you can use to create client-side pages programmatically. Now, if you have looked at the version history of pages, you might have seen like there's like a ton of intermediate versions because each update that we did to the page as part of the process generated a separate version. And that's something that we've corrected now. Now you get like a clean version history when you get a page. There's work done in the ALM space. So we have ALM APIs to deploy SharePoint framework customizations to the tenant app catalog, and then also deploy then install an app, for example, in your site. The ALM APIs work in a way that like if you have, for example, just provisioned an app catalog in your tenant and you immediately afterwards use the APIs, things might not go as expected. And that's why we have done some additional work to make those scenarios more stable and reliable. There are some performance improvements done around client-side page exports. There are some issues with the regex expressions that we used that caused some performance problems, which are fixed now. And then the September 2019 schema is committed in the dev branch. I think Paolo will talk more about it in the next slide, but that's coming up. That's one of the big work items for us going forward, is implementing 2019 schema and obviously also handling the additional PRs that are still pending, because you guys keep on adding more PRs than we can merge in a time frame, which is good because there's lots of activity, lots of good things coming in, people using it, people making it better. So I'm more than happy to get even more PRs in, but sometimes it takes a bit of time to get them merged.
It's a positive problem of
it's
having
a positive problem. It's a super
too active open source project, but
yes,
really good, really good. Should we go to Paolo next, quickly on the provisioning schema updates? So Paolo, I think you're on the call.
Yeah, I am. So yes, from a PnP provisioning engine perspective, we also just released the schema version 2019-09. And what are the main new capabilities that we have right now at schema level? We introduced support for vertical sections in client-side pages. We added support for OneDrive and SharePoint Online files upload. So you will be able in the near future to use the provisioning engine to upload files in OneDrive and SharePoint Online using the Microsoft Graph. We introduced some new XML elements in the schema to make it possible to bulk upload user profile properties in the SharePoint Online user profile. We added some functionalities around the groups, Office 365 groups lifecycle policies, and generally speaking, the Office 365 group settings. A new site settings section, which we were missing before, and which now we can use to configure settings at site collection level. We added support for attachments in data rows when you want to provision a template, including list items with attachments. And we made some improvements to the schema around the provisioning, declarative provisioning of teams. I want to be absolutely clear about the fact that right now, those functionalities are available at schema level, and we are working like there is no tomorrow to make it possible to have the actual implementation in the engine level. So right now, at the engine level, we are still using version 2019-03 of the schema, but in the dev branch, we are developing all the handlers to make it possible to have all of these functionalities in the provisioning engine as well. If you want to know more about the schema, just follow the link in the lower part of this slide and have a look to the new schema. And that's it on my side, Beza.
Cool. Thank you, Paolo. On that one, there was a good question related on can we actually create also user profile properties using the provisioning schema, and answer quickly, just recapping that one. Answer is no. Unfortunately, no. There is no remote APIs for creating user profile properties, the new user profile properties in the user profile service. So that's why that's not a supported capability, at least for now. And just full transparency, I don't think that capability will be ever most likely implemented in SharePoint Online due to numerous reasons, which let's not spend time on that. But you can, if you have an existing profile and existing properties, you can allocate values there using the engine. Let's go to the PnP PowerShell. Irvin, I think you're on the call as well.
I am.
Yeah, awesome.
Yep. So basically the same problem as Bert has when it comes to the PRs. They're just piling up and growing, which is a good thing. It's a luxury problem, I would say, and we're working our way through them, and they will get merged in due time. Hopefully, I will merge a lot of them before the next release. The cool thing with PowerShell is because we heavily tap into PnP CSOM Core. All the goodies that Bert announced and what Paolo just talked about from the schema changes, they will just automatically become available in PnP PowerShell. So all the new things with the client-side pages and the new schema and all the new functionality with provisioning engine will come in PnP PowerShell. We're working as we speak on implementing some things there. Because they're very interesting also for the lookbook templates that Katie will talk about soon. So we're getting there. Hopefully the next release will have a lot of new PRs in there, new functionality. And that's it.
Yeah, and from a timing perspective, I just give some additional visibility on the, let's say, timings and everything else. Obviously, Ignite is coming, and Ignite is one of our big announcements and big demo locations. And in the Ignite, we'll need to have cool stuff available. So you can kind of assume that in the November timeframe, October-November timeframe, you will see a lot of new stuff coming into this tooling as well. Quick recap from Bert's side on the modernization side. Modernization tooling.
Yes, modernization tooling, 2 components: transformation framework, the tool to take classic pages and generate modern equivalents, and then the scanner. About the transformation framework, so the page transformation tech for the October release, we have some really cool new things, some really useful new things in my opinion as well. One of them will be a classic blog page to modern page. So if you have a classic blog still living in your environment and you want to kind of get rid of that one, now you can simply use page transformation, and it will read the blog pages and will create equivalent modern pages in, for example, a communication site. So you can really upgrade your blog to something modern. Another option is to keep page creation modification information. Pretty long name, but essentially I think the name kind of explains what it does. So when you take over a page from a source site, let's say your blog, for example, your blog page, you will get the same author, editor, modified and created settings than the original page had and a source page had on your target page. So we kind of keep that. You can combine that with a post as news. So it's pretty easy now to just then modernize the page, keep the same information, same author, same editor, etc., and then also post as news. And then you'll see in the news roll-up that this page was posted by that original author on that particular date. So things just stay as is as part of the transformation. Then there is some improvements in on-prem handling. We had an issue with if you have SharePoint publishing pages in on-prem 2010 to 2016, and there was web parts embedded in a content zone, not in a web parts zone, but really inside the content. Then things went wrong. That's being fixed, and then there is some additional smaller fixes that's there as well. For the scanner, working on workflow info-pod scanning improvements. So workflow, really looking inside the workflow, assessing how well this workflow can be transformed to flow, telling you which activities are ready to transform, which not, combined with some documentation in that area as well. So you will see more from us in that in here, like end of September, early October timeframe. I think that sums it up, Vesa.
Cool. We are pretty much on the schedule. That was the intention. 15 minutes on the quick updates, and then the stage is yours, Katie. I think we'll jump on your screen. Awesome. Take it away.
Yeah. So as they've been alluding to, my name is Katie Swanson. I am a product designer with SharePoint. I actually like to tell people a little bit of a flip on that. I use the product to design what SharePoint can do and be. I've been doing this for the past year. My first initial project was actually to build out all the demos for last Ignite. So I kind of jumped into the fire to figure out the product as well as come up with these great ideas that were all out of the box. Sometimes they often do demo things that are coming. So I got to work with those as well and provide feedback. So I'm also a user. But some of the things I'm going to share today are not going to necessarily be based around the demos because everybody sees those. And those are usually what goes into the lookbook. You're seeing a lot of the sites that are already put out there. You've seen them. You'll see them all over in marketing. I'm actually going to demo something that's outside of that. I was going to say outside of the box, but it will be. So a little bit of just a background on how I approach this. This is very going to be design heavy, but it also ties into every kind of a project management as well. And the way that I think about this, there's a lot of planning that goes involved into a site. Outside of the demo environment where I actually have a script and I'm working with somebody side by side, there's other alternatives that I have to think about when it comes to site creation. I generally don't think about them as a comm site or a team site. I actually think about the solution that they're trying to solve. So what is that actual purpose of it? Who needs to have the access? What are the perms going to be like? And then even, I can design something, but who's going to maintain it? Is this going to be something that they can easily jump into and I can be hands off the wheel? Then I also start thinking about content. Content's probably one of the hardest parts of the journey. In a perfect world, I would love to be handed something at the get-go, but we know we don't live in a perfect world. So I, on the other side, am starting to think about what's the brand going to be? What kind of photography? Do we have org assets set up? Can I actually put those in ahead of time? And then also, should we incorporate other kind of content? Should we have some stream videos? Should we have some Twitter feeds? Is there going to be Yammer? Should we have some kind of listing involved? Is there going to be any kind of customization to that? Even Planner's a good one. And then, of course, site navigation. That's always important because the site navigation, if your users can't get around your site, then I feel like it's almost a UX fail. We want to be able to provide the best experience top down. So, and then the designing aspect, I always think about above the fold. And when I say above the fold, I'm not literally, we'll get into this, what I think about above the fold, but what are those key elements that need to be right at the top? And then also thinking about our web parts, they have so many different layout options, and how can I incorporate those to make it a little bit more dynamic? Also white space, huge part of this, a very big friend of mine. I love the spacer. I like things that can breathe. I don't think you should overdo it with your content. Cognitive load needs to be taken into account. My theming and color usage throughout, now that we've actually brought in background colors, section backgrounds, even in the header, how can I use that to draw attention, which rolls into calls to action. Is there a call to action on the page? Do I need to incorporate that somewhere, and how can I design that so it's very intriguing? And then quite often when I'm doing a design, I will come up with, on the templates, there's a lot of news articles that come prepackaged, and I will utilize page templates to be able to produce those well. Sometimes there's going to be a fully baked out news article, but most of them, as you know, in our demo environment are a little bit of what we'll say filler. So page templates become my best friend on that. So above the fold, I just want you guys to take a minute and know it's a myth. And I'll show you what I mean by that. I call it scrolling telling, because scrolling is a continuation and clicking is a decision. You want your content to be engaging and informative, and people aren't coming just for the top of your screen. There's always great content even below that. And there's ways that we can do that. Best practices, creating focal points, visual cues, so people know to actually scroll. And you really want to, when it comes to spacing, like I said, with white space, break up your content. And then, of course, quality engaging content is top priority so that people will come back and read it. And I love that our navigation is actually sticky, so it does accommodate that scrolling. And now that we've brought anchor links in, you can actually utilize that in different ways to go to sections within your page. So demo. So I'm going to do a demo. Like I said, I'm going to actually do something. I'm going to put you guys into, I got a request to build a event site. Contoso Marketing is getting ready to put out a Fly Safe conference. It's not until next July, but I'm going to quickly build this out and show you guys what I mean by all of these kind of visual cues. So here's a perfect world. I actually got a document sent to me of what they want on the page. Before I actually dive into this, I probably had a one-on-one quick chat with the person I'm actually building this with. And then they also, in the contents document, I actually have all the imagery that I've thought about. I'm kind of jumping ahead for you guys, but this is, I pulled together the imagery, I've got my copy doc, I've kind of thought through some things, and then I'm going to actually go build it. And for the sake of timing here, I did some pre-planning, but I am going to go into edit mode, so you're going to see all my background on what we're actually doing here. So FlySafe, top, they gave me a nice image that I worked with them to create a banner. So let me go ahead and get into my site. Come on. And because I was really smart, I actually put in my header. Move faces, face out of the way real quick. And open that guy. Boom, nice. I don't, as a SharePoint, we don't highly suggest using text, but if you do, I would test it across all devices to make sure that you have legibility. This right here, it's really large, so I know that it scales to mobile. Smaller text, of course, I don't recommend it, and very limited text is actually more ideal. So we have the date. I'm going to go ahead and come into my countdown timer and actually set that for the correct date and not tomorrow. July, oh, it's a Sunday. Well, that's okay. And I'm also going to add in a background image. I have a picture from the conference itself. Last year. And I'm seeing a little bit of a contrast issue, so I'm going to go ahead and bump up my opacity, make sure that's legible. Great, nice call to action is to get your tickets. Right now, because this is a template, I have all of the links going to just a refresh. Quite often you'll see that when they come through. I don't send you outside so that you can update it on your own. This section is going to be more of an information section, but I wanted to use it for a visual cue to go ahead and scroll down the page. So I'm going to pull in a nice strong section background. I also, as you'll see, I added a spacer here to give it a little bit more breathing room. Big fan of the spacer. And then we need some text to come in here. Come on over here. Great, and because this is just normal and we have our slotting, it's going to come in white and I have a nice contrast to it. Really kind of pulls the page down. Oh, and I noted here that this next session is actually going to be, next section is going to have all the sessions, which are, I'm going to utilize the events. And look at that, they actually preloaded the events on the page for me. All I have to do is do that because it's coming from this site. Of course, with events, you know, you can pull them from other locations, but for templates, I always keep everything internal. Oh, and this looks like it's going to be, oh, I have two things that I need to do here. I need to have a link off to the keynote information as well as the agenda. So I'm going to utilize a hero. I only have two. Again, I'm going to use an internal refresh. I'll go ahead and set that up on this side as well. All right, and because I put a strong section background here, you can do that on your heroes and actually be kind of creative in that. And what I mean is on this side, I'm going to actually add an image here. There's a nice theme that they have about a typographic rather. I'm saying that wrong. Where are you?
I have to say that that's the story of my life. I'm always on somebody's way.
Your little face is like, I keep moving you around. I'm going to put this typographic. and which is white. Once it comes in, you can see how it actually plays with the section background, which is great. So if I do change the theming, it actually will work any which way because it's on top of it and it's a ping. And this is the agenda to schedule. Send them off somewhere. I could put my call to action if I want. I'm just going to leave it blank because it's just going to add a link at the top. Can link that out to another page. Here I have Keynote. And again, a nice custom image background. Oh, how about we spell it correctly? Keynote. Keynote. And I have this really basic scrubbed image, so it could be really anything being presented at this point. I can go back in and update that once I have the final details, little Photoshop magic. And then down here, I'm going to add in the ticket pricing or details. I'm using just emojis here to get these items to come in. All of our RTE will accept these. Now, do keep in mind, they're going to look different across browsers. Are a little bit browser dependent, so I do like to look at that. I'm on a Mac, so you're seeing what I see. And because we have this amazing duplication, I can actually do that and quickly come in and update these. This is going to come on. I did not come over, so that's easy. And on this, you get everything. So I could just quickly update that. And the get tickets are all going to be going to the same place, so I can just quickly duplicate that and put it all the way across. Super easy. And that's it. So let's see what this looks like. And here, as you can see, this is just your normal, probably most browser type here, the size of it. You'll see that things are peaking. So this is where I tell scrollytelling. It actually makes me feel like I should go ahead and dive down and scroll further to get more information. And the nice visual at the top kind of ties things in with our hero image. Also, nice call to action, counting down the days. Again, nice, pulls my eye in with this nice primary color of our sessions. Schedule. And ticket pricing, so people can go out. You can also include that in your navigation, brings you to the same pages, and you can also include it in your footer if you'd like. I do generally on, you can leave the comments on or off. You can do a contact page if you'd like, and that's really it for the demo. As I think Vase has been alluding to, we do have some really great new lookbook templates coming. I'm going to call them solutions, different kinds of things that you could kind of bring in. They're not always going to be about the demos. We're thinking about these in different higher levels, so we can give you guys more options for customers and tenants across the site. Yes, sites across your tenant, rather. And always looking for suggestions. So if you think of something that comes across when you're working on things that would be helpful as a starter design, definitely reach out to me on Twitter and let me know, because I'm always looking for great new ideas. We are always interested to see how people use these, so feedback is great as well. And that's it for me.
Cool. Don't stop sharing yet. There's a few questions. Just a comment on the lookbook sites. Like Katie said, we're working on the V2 templates, and those are going to be available then in the upcoming provisioning service. So we're kind of evolving the lookbook site and the provisioning service to an interesting direction. We're not going to disclose everything right now, but you'll see more stuff coming up before Ignite or in Ignite. Hopefully that's currently our deadline. Now, to be fair, for some of these new designs, if the people who attended this call were part of the monthly community call, which was a week ago, where we had John Sanders doing live demos of the out-of-the-box web parts. He was actually using a lot of the new site and site designs with a right side for them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so really cool stuff coming up. And basic idea is that people can easily then provision example content to their tenants or demo tenants using those templates when we get stuff moving. Now, there was a few questions which we wanted to ask. There was just a note on this one, is there recommended sizes for header images and all of that? Thank you, Bo Cameron, on sharing a link to the support articles. There is a clear articles on the recommended sizes and all of that on the width of the image and all of that. Mm-hmm. There was a question, is that called parallax scrolling? What the header image is doing when it's scrolling down? Is that, or because it's doing?
Yeah, so our imagery across the site, anytime you put it in, will take on a parallax effect to it. Yep. You'll also see that in our hero imagery as well.
Cool. And then there was a kind of an interesting question. I know that this is kind of a difficult question as well, but any tips on converting HTML mockups to modern SharePoint pages? Because this is the classic challenge with SharePoint, especially in classic SharePoint, in classic experiences. That was like customer came with a fancy looking designs and said, I want to make SharePoint look like this. And then said, well, oh, okay. But any tips on your side of the house?
So, yeah, I think I work with internal and external teams that quite often come with me and say, this is what we have right now. How can we implement this in modern? And most of the stuff they have, if there might be a somewhat of a one-to-one using, and I should say, I always look at the out-of-the-box solutions first. If there's something that they definitely need that's going to have to be custom, I can walk through that with them as well. And point them to all your awesome documentation. But there, as of right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is not a way to say, here's an HTML file and bring it into modern. I just look at it from what are the web parts that we can we support and we have today that actually can create the same, I don't want to say look and feel, but provide the same solutions.
Yeah.
And kind of work through that. People are very happy about that. But again, like I said, if there's something very custom, there are ways to work around that as well, right? Because we have custom coding for that.
Absolutely. There's also a really good suggestion from Gary on the chat window, which is why mock when you can actually build a quick working demo for real. Which is absolutely correct. So that's definitely a super powerful way of getting things kind of shown what's possible. And please do remember, we have already right now provisioning the SharePoint PnP.com service. You can get exactly the same designs which we used a year ago in Ignite provisioned to any tenant in the world. And that's actually super powerful because now you have a starting point and then you can start modifying the content. There's example content, example images and all of that. So a really powerful way of approaching designing those things. And there's a good question from Aravind. Can we convert the sample site to a template and apply that to another site? So natively out of the box in SharePoint, unfortunately, that's not possible, but that's where the PnP tenant templating comes along. So you can technically extract and apply that template to any site in the world, and you would get the same end result. There are certain things which you need to consider, and you can manipulate the template if needed as part of the extraction and manipulate and then apply. But technically, when you extract using the PnP templating, it actually takes images and example content, the web parts, and whatever the web part content is being used on those as well, and then extracts that to a single file, and then you're able to apply that to any tenant or other site collections as well. And that's really the power of community, because the PnP tenant templates has been built by more than 100 people of the community within the past years. So,
correct me if I'm wrong. Can you also utilize site design for that as well?
Well, site designs are theoretically you can extract site using site design, except there's no support for modern pages.
Got you. Okay.
And for many other various settings which are not included in site design. So I would say, how would I estimate this? Site designs is right now in 15 to 20% level comparing to the open source templating.
Okay.
But it's evolving. It's all the time heading forward. Absolutely. But I think that's it for now on the questions. And let's actually continue watching the questions. There might be time for Q&A in the end, but we need to give also Ramin enough time.
You guys can always reach out to me on Twitter.
Yeah, and Katie is super active on Twitter, and she's funny, like Chris mentioned on the chat already. So thank you for your morning messages. So, but let's actually, Ramin, I think you're on a call. And let's jump on your computer. In Ramin's case, he's going to show something related on SharePoint Framework. SharePoint Framework, Azure Functions, and actually site designs as well. So site provisioning. And we did have a debate with Ramin on should we do this demo in the SPFx call or in the general development call. But then because this is more around site solution designs and an overall larger design pattern, we decided that this would be the right call to actually go through this demo. Really great, really looking forward to seeing this one as well. So Ramin, take it away.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Ramin Ahmadi. I'm a SharePoint developer at Content & Code, and I'm really glad that I'm with you again for another demo. So as you know, the PnP provisioning engine provides a code-centric and template-based platform for provisioning your site collections, and basically allows you to reuse provisioning models in Office 365 and also SharePoint Online and SharePoint On-Prem. And I'm pretty sure most of you guys using PnP PowerShell to automate your site creation. But today I'm not going to talk about writing PowerShell scripts. I'm going to show you how you can call Azure Functions to get or apply PnP provisioning template from a SharePoint web part. So for this demo, I have two site collections. This site collection has two custom lists that I created for this demo, but this one is empty. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this PnP template XML from this site collection and apply it to the other one. So as you can see, we have two custom lists and library here. For this list, I have a custom content type, and this content type has 3 site columns. So if I go back to the home page, this is our web part. So you can get a template. You can use all of these handlers. If I select all, it just gets all of these handlers from this site collection, or you can select whatever you want. For this demo, I'm going to select fields, lists, and content types. And when I click on Get Templates, it's going to trigger the Azure function to get the template, and it will return the result soon. And yeah, here you go. So this is the template, and you can download the file that gives you the XML file. As you can see, we have the site fields, site columns. We have the content types, and also the fields. Also the list. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to the other site collection. We have also that web part here. And if I go to apply template, I can just drag our XML file here. And it's going to trigger another Azure function to apply the template to this site collection. So I think it should be something wrong with the XML file. I just added this capability to upload file today to this web part. So it might be something with this web part, but this is something we expect to apply the template to the site collection. I'm pretty sure it worked before the demo. I just tested a couple of times, but as you know, it always happens in the demo. But I'm mostly excited about the code behind this web part because there are more to talk about. So let's start from the SPFx web part. All of the components in this web part are functional, and there is no class components here. As you know, React hooks are a new addition in React 16.8. They let you use state and other React features without writing a class. There are a lot of posts around React hooks, so I'm just going to talk about some of them here. One of the issues all of us experience is passing props down to child components. And it's really painful when you're dealing with a complex projects. There are a couple of ways to solve this issue, like estate management libraries, like Redux is one of them, but there is a huge amount of boilerplate code in every Redux application. So React Context API is a way of essentially creating global variables that can be passed around in a React application. So imagine I have some information and methods to update those information. I want to be available anywhere or everywhere throughout our application. We can create a context using create context. And these are our information and methods that I'm going to use in all the child components in our application. This class create context gives you app context.provider and app context.consumer. What these two components do is straightforward. Provider is the component that provides the values that you can see here. This is our provider component. And the consumer is the component that is consuming the value. The provider always needs to exist as a wrapper around the parent element. No matter how you choose to consume the values, I wrap the entire app component in the provider. Now any child, grandchild, and so on will have access to this information. For example, if I go to one of these child components, you can see here in this first line, I can use context and get our app context from here. And then you can use the context variables and methods everywhere in your components. And also there are some other hooks that you can see here. For example, use state returns a pair, the current state value, and a function that lets you update that value, like this one. And also you can have multiple user states in your application, in your basically components, like here. And also we have use effect or effect hooks. Effect hook this adds the ability to perform side effects from a function component. If you're likely perform data fetching, subscriptions, or manually changing the DOM with this hook, it serves the same purpose as component did mount, component did update, and component will unmount in React classes. Effects may also optionally specify how to clean up after them by returning function like this, and you can use more than a single effect in a component. So this is our web part, and this is a really good sample if you want to use React hooks, especially use context to share all your information among your application. And this is our Azure Functions solution. So we have two classes here. One is for getting the application, getting the provisioning template. So it just uses PnP Core, PnP Core package as you can see here, and also here. And this class is for getting the PnP provisioning template. So as you can see, we just connect to the Azure Functions through a helper class that helps you to get the Azure AD app-only authentication context. And after that, you can get the templates like this and return the XML file to the web part or any code that triggers that Azure function. We also have apply provisioning template. here you can pass your file to this Azure function, and you're going to apply the template to the site collection. So I think that's it for the web part.
Here we go. So give me 1 second. I just lost my team somewhere in my screens. It's over there. So here we go. Really cool stuff. And I think it's sure there's always demo effect, but the fact that you can actually extract the template from a web part is really usable, and you can select which of the things that you want to extract and all of that. So there was a question related on Katie's design. Can you extract that kind of a site? This is exactly how you extract that kind of a site. You select those things which you want to extract, and then you extract that. And beauty of this one, actually, I know, Ramin, you worked with the templates for quite a lot. From your perspective, is it hard to manually then adjust or modify these things, or how do you create a template for your customer?
Basically, we use PnP PowerShell to automate this site creation. So we have different templates. We implement for different customers, different clients, and we write some PowerShell scripts to apply those templates to existing site or creating a new site based on those templates. But I was thinking, so sometimes it's really difficult to tell client how you can apply these templates. Sometimes the scripts is not working, and there are some problems with the PowerShell scripts. So I was thinking maybe I can implement something that make it more simpler for administrators to get or apply the templates. I came up with this web parts because you can use them in the classic page as well. But I'm pretty sure it would be great if you can have it as an extension, so it will be available by default for all site collections, and also it can be more advanced to save the templates somewhere in the SharePoint or in Azure, like a Belop storage, and then we can apply the template from those saved templates.
Sure. So having a kind of an application customizer which then shows an export or save a site as a template capability if you're an administrator of that site, and then you click save, and that actually saves that XML blob to the Azure, and then in a custom provisioning side of the house, it just shows the options from the Azure side of the house. Now, that would be then matching on what we used to have in classic site templates. The classic site templates were good idea back in 2007, but then the technology moved forward faster, and the classic site template implementation is not feature-proof. It's something which is actually fundamentally technically broken even for classic sites. We talked about that quite a few times in the past years. What's wrong with that implementation and why the remote provisioning pattern is better. Somebody might be wondering, why aren't we actually implementing this remote provisioning pattern and this export capabilities out of the box? And we are doing that with site designs, but the investments takes time, and the implementation takes time. And to be fair, in the case of PnP tenant templates, the tenant templates are actually in a tenant level. Site designs are always in a site level. So in a tenant templates or PnP templates, you can create multiple site collections in a single template if needed. You can operate in a single site as well, like in this case in the Ramin's case, which is definitely an option as well. But one of the challenges what we keep on having in engineering is that actually community contributes on the PnP side so much that the engineering is having a hard time of catching up. And that's really shows the power of open source and community, because this template engine is being used by thousands and thousands of customers every single month, which is pretty cool. So it's an interesting balance and challenge on catching from an engineering side on what people are having and contributing on the open source side of the house. Now, I think it's actually time. Let's flip on back on my screen. I'm going to share a Q&A slide, and we can actually have a discussion on those questions, what people are having. Let me get the chat window available. You should be seeing my Q&A slide, unless I'm completely mistaken. Any questions for Katie or Ramin, around the implementations. Anything which we're spending over there. Ramin is definitely giving good feedback as well. Can we sell SPFx through Office Store now? Not yet. There is no store support for SPFx files yet. It is actively being worked on. It's being worked on, unfortunately, for quite a long time. Now there's finally light in the tunnel. We can actually see that we're finally getting there. I'm just hoping that light isn't a train. No, just really bad joke. But it is definitely in the pipeline and coming quite soon. And at that point, you can then, as an individual developer or as an ISV, you can get your applications offered through AppSource or any other location, the store location. There's a question related on why are we doing site script site designs way if we already have a proven PnP module to provision sites, which is a fair question. And that really comes down on the performance of things. The PnP engine works on the client side, so using remote APIs, and that's much slower than executing the same operations using server-side APIs, which would be possible as long as we are implementing the similar capabilities using then the native APIs. So that's really why the site design capability is being worked on, so that the performance of the provisioning operations is faster. And why didn't we just fix the site template model? Answer is we couldn't. The site template model was designed back in 2005. Now it's 2019. Technology has evolved quite significantly forward, and there were some fundamental issues with the site template model, the STP file, or then even the VSV-SP file when it was moved to be a sandbox solution. So there was no way for really fixing that implementation. It had a fundamental design flaw from a starting point. It actually did work well in on-premises where we shipped a version in once in every 3 years, but in SharePoint Online, we ship a version in every single week. So in this agile way of evolving the service, the classic WSP way of saving a site as a template is not a functional solution. That's why we needed to redesign the model. Now, good site discussions, definitely. Yes, good question related on the Contoso themes and Contoso assets. If you have a look on the SharePoint starter kit, that starter kit is actually provisioning UX classic Contoso themes. If you go and have a look on the starter kit GitHub repo, you can actually find the theme files. You can find example images and other assets which you can use if you want to build your own kind of a custom experience as well. So all of those assets are available from the SharePoint starter kit GitHub repo. It is fully open source, so you can actually reuse those any way you want. Good. I think we are heading to the ending. Can we do the same in the team side as well? Can we do modifications on the team side? Team side experience, the pages experience is pretty much the same as with the communication sites, except that in team sites, there's the left side navigation available. Technically, there's ways to actually tackle that as well. But in a classic or in a modern team site, there's the left side navigation, and that makes the experience slightly different than in the communication sites. But technically, you can, how would I put this, communify a team site as well. So make it look like a communication site given the communication site behavior. And that's something which, by the way, the communify root site functionality, PowerShell commandlet, is actually doing. And there's an ongoing discussion, should we support that for all of the classic team sites or modern team sites as well, which is really cool. Home site Ignite release, we can't go to the details at this point. What are we going to release in Ignite? Because otherwise there's nothing to release in Ignite if we already tell that what we're going to release in Ignite. So we can't disclose what is going to be announced in Ignite at this point. But obviously we've shown a lot of the stuff, which was shown, for example, in the spring event, which was SPC, is then planned to get shipped or evolved at least by Ignite timeframe. So definitely. Will Vesa bring his dog to Ignite? Unfortunately, no. I don't think she would like to be on the plane, so that's a no-go. But I think that's it for now. So we are hitting the hour anyway. So thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, Katie. Awesome demo on the design side of the house. And from a timing perspective, you will see more details around the upcoming design templates and lookbook sites sooner or later. And thank you, Ramin. Also really, really good and a great demo around the overall design of that functionality. It is a great sample. It is an open source sample available in the GitHub as well. But thank you everybody for, again, a super active discussion on the chat window. Hopefully that's beneficial for everybody. Really good to see the interest around these things. So thank you. Thank you. We'll see you next week, most likely. And let's stay in touch in social media. Bye-bye.